when I say literacy, I mean reading, writing, speaking and listening, and getting those things linked together. You will have heard your children, the time I've been here annoying them, how they're all learning how to write different types of text. They might be writing an explanation, they might be writing an information report, they might be writing a procedure, and so on. That also comes directly across to reading. Children have to be able to read all of these different texts and text types as well. I was saying to the group yesterday, and please keep in mind as parents, is that the world is demanding at this point in time that your children be more literate than any group of children in history. Your children have to be more literate than you were at this age. The world is asking more of them. The school day is still as long as it has always been. There are still as many teaching days in a year as there have always been. But your children need to be more literate than at any time in history. When I went through school, if I finished off primary school and I was good at reading stories, I was a good reader. Unfortunately today that's not the case anymore. You have to read information reports, you have to read procedures, you have to read explanations and so on. So what we're asking of our children is an incredibly difficult task. It is not an easy one, it is a very, very difficult task. So we as educators then have to ask ourselves, what is the best way we can teach that to children? We never want them to feel, and I hope as parents you never want them to feel, that they have this huge weight upon their shoulders. I've never said to a group of children, you have to be more literate than anybody else in history, my friends. So, but we never want children to feel that. We want them to feel incredibly successful. So this morning I want to explain to you this idea of guided reading, what's happening in classrooms, why we're doing it, and as one parent said to me this morning, is why it is so successful. Having 3 children go through the school and seeing the difference that this approach is making for children and so on. So, how does it work? The first thing I just want to go through very, very quickly is, what is a good reader? When you've got your child sitting in front of you at home and they're reading a book, what is it that makes a good reader? And the first thing I'm going to say to you today, it is not just decoding. As a parent, don't get carried away with the idea that if your child can say the words on the page, that they are a good reader. This is what they have to be good at. So a good reader has to be very, very good at decoding. They do have to say the words on the page. So a good reader can decode. But then they have to do that decoding with fluency and phrasing. They will not be a good reader if they're sitting there going, the dog is black. Right? So fluency and phrasing, incredibly important. Particularly as we move into years 3 through to 6, your children are now being asked to read complex sentences in their reading. So now there's more than one idea in a sentence. How and what do you do there as a reader? And that idea that you have to break the sentence when you're reading, when you get to the conjunction, that there is 2 sets of meanings. So the word "and" is there for a very good reason, because it's giving you 2 pieces of information. So when you read, that's where you have to break the sentence. So what we want for your children, at the age of 8, on an appropriately level text, we want them reading about 80 words per minute. We don't worry if they're reading 76 or what have you, but we want to see children reading about 80 words per minute. 2 years later, we need the children reading about 100 words per minute. 2 years after that, about 120 words per minute, and for the rest of us, for the rest of our lives, we read about 120 words per minute. Fluency and phrasing is incredibly important. In fact, here at the school, and I'll show you this in a moment, when we did the initial assessments with the children here at the school, we found that across the school there were excellent decoders, but fluency and phrasing was not great. So we were not going to move children up The balanced reader is able to decode. They are able to do the decoding with fluency and phrasing, but they also have to be able to comprehend. They have to be able to understand what they read. We've all had that experience. Your child has read a book to you, said every word on the page, da, 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 da. You ask them 3 questions at the end, and they look back at you as though you've got 2 heads. Was it my job to make this make sense as well? And in education today, what we want is, we want children to have 3 levels of comprehension. So we want literal comprehension, we want inferential comprehension, and we want response comprehension. And if we get time today, I've thrown some cards on the table. Please don't take these home because these are brand new resources that have just arrived at the school. I was using a group of kids yesterday, I was so excited to use them, so I can't go back to them today. I said, Mum stole them. But we were going to do this today, but your mum took them home with her. No. So literal, inferential, and response. And then, on top of that, what our children also have to do is they have to be able to do that on a wide range of text types or genres. Becoming a balanced reader is incredibly difficult. And what we see often with children, because it is such a difficult process, is that we get children who are not poor readers, but they are imbalanced readers. They can say every word on the page they don't understand. And you see, so it's not that they're poor readers, but they are imbalanced readers. So what we are setting out to do at this school is to make sure that every child is a balanced reader. That every child, as they go through, is a balanced reader. And with the school that I've been working in Oman, a premium English curriculum school in Oman as well, and I was in there with, and the teacher had a group of 6-year-olds, and the teacher was in there, and she had the model of being a balanced reader cut out, right? And then the children's names were on pens, and the children knew exactly what they were working on. So here were these little 6-year-olds, and they might have been on level 6, but their job was to improve their fluency and phrasing. So their peg was on the fluency and phrasing, but another child had theirs on comprehension and so on. So that's the background. When we in education say that a child is a good reader, what we mean is they can do all of these things. Now the difficult thing with becoming a balanced reader is that children have to do this at every level. You don't wait till level 15 and then go, we'd better do some comprehension now. They have to be good at comprehending, as good at comprehending at level 1 as they are at level 6 and again at 17. So, what do we then have in this school to support your children to take on this incredibly difficult task? And what Louise and her team have been doing and working with is, in the school, what you'll see now is there are 30 levels of text. So the texts have all been leveled 1 through to 30, and what you'll often see on the back of the book to represent that is a colour band, right, where it says red or blue or green and so on. It relates to the 30 levels. Now these 30 levels take your children through from a reading age. So they take your children through from a reading age of less than 5 to a reading age of 12 years of age. So there's the 30 levels, and they take children through to a reading age of 12 years of age. Here's the big thing to remember as teachers, as parents. Using the 30 levels of text is not a race to the end. Having the right book in the hands of the right child at the right time is the most important thing. Do not fall into the trap of thinking that the kid who gets to 30 first is the best reader in the school. I have been in classrooms where I've had 2 children sitting next to each other. One child is on level 20, the other child is on level 12, but the child on level 12 is actually a better reader than the child on level 20. Because the child on level 20 is sitting there saying words, and what will happen is if we move children through levels too quickly, the gap they won't magically start doing it because you put them on to level 15. The other thing I'm going to ask you to really consider as parents, and please, please, please keep this in mind, the level that your child is on belongs to them. It does not matter what level the child is who's sitting next to them. It does not matter what level the child is on who lives next door. It is just, we all know as parents, and we all know in teaching, is that children develop at different rates. Those who have 2 children or make the mistake to have 3, we all know they do things differently at different times. And so what we always want to make sure is that we've got them moving forward and that they are working at the most appropriate level for them. Now, then there's the 30 levels. So there's the 30 levels of text. We're going to have a look at those on these cards in a moment. When a child is placed on a level, I was joking about this yesterday, a teacher doesn't walk into a room and say, right, all the children with brown eyes, you're going to be on level 14. Everybody with blonde hair, you're going to be on level 17. So the teachers do an assessment, and the assessment is called a running record or a record of reading. The teacher listens to your child read individually, and then as the child reads, the teacher then records what your child does. So as the child reads, here's a completed one that I have from my own school. So here is, I listen to Kylie read. This is a level 20 book. I want to know whether this is the best level to teach Kylie at, or should I go down a couple of levels? Should I go up a couple of levels? So I listen to Kylie read. There is then a set of things that we do, and as she's read, I have recorded exactly what she has done as a reader. So all the ticks, she got them correct. She got to the word little, she said small. I know that's terribly small for you guys, but got to the word great. Kylie started going, grrr. You can't see the little T next to it, because I came in and I said the word great for her. Moved along, she got to the word shadow, and she said shower. So what does that tell me as a teacher? So having a look at this being a level 20 text, Kylie had to read 185 words to me at level 20. In reading the 185 words, she makes about 12 errors across the text. That means her error rate is 1 in 15. So when I give Kylie a book at level 20, her error rate is 1 in 15. For every 15 words she reads, she has difficulty with 1 word. Can you see? I will not teach a child to read if I hand them a book and they've got an error rate of 1 in 7. Can you see? Where every 7 words. So what we go searching for as educators is what is called the instructional level. So we look for texts, we find the level for your child where their accuracy rate for teaching is between 90 to 94%. So when we put the book in their hands, 90% of the time we're saying excellent work, terrific, great reading, and for 10% of the time we're saying come back and have a look at, look a little bit closer at. Can you see a little word inside the big word, and so on. So that and then we also ask comprehension questions, and we also look at fluency and phrasing. At this school, and I will take the arrows for this, if a child could get 100% with decoding, I could look at a running record and there's a tick across every word, but the child did not comprehend, what would be the best decision for that child? Not to move them up levels, can you see? It is to maybe even go back a couple of levels, you see? So don't see the 30 levels as being a lockstep 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and certainly do not see it as a race to the end. As you can see here, level 30 is a reading age of 12 years of age. If we build your children into balanced readers, where we hasten slowly across the school, rather than thinking we have to race them there too quickly. So, there's 30 please, please, please do not say that book is too easy. The whole idea, it is supposed to be easy. It is for the practice of reading. It is not for the teaching of reading. That's being taken care of with the instructional level book. The book they take home is the easy level. And I used this example yesterday. My little nephew, and he lives about 12, 14 hour drive from where we live in Melbourne, he lives. And Alan, very, very bright little boy, very, very good verbally, but he just wasn't getting this whole idea of reading, which in a family of educators is really difficult. My mother was a school principal, I was a school principal, you know, then you've got a nephew who can't go, oh, you want to do something about this? Anyway, he had an excellent teacher. And we were heading off on holidays. I was at my family off overseas, and Alan rang to say goodbye to remind us it was Otten's birthday while we were away. And over the phone, he said to me, Uncle Stephen, can I read you my take-home reader? So I ask you as parents, why do you think he wanted to read to me over the phone? Absolutely, he was going to be successful. And at that point, I didn't care whether every other kid in the room was on level 14. My nephew wanted to be a reader. And over the phone, what I was saying, I couldn't even see the book, but I'm just going, fantastic reading. You are a genius. You are the best reader I have ever heard in my entire life. That is what take-home reading is for. Take-home reading is not getting out a book that is too hard, when you're chasing your child going, go and get your book out, go and get your book out, go and get your book out. What I would want, as I had, with my kids when I was taking them home in the afternoon, is they want to do their take-home reading in the car. Can I do it now? Can I get this? Can I do this? That's what I want for your kids, right? Because, and you all know, it doesn't matter how good you are at doing something, you still have to practice what you can already do. Olympians do it every day, right? They always practice what they can already do because we want to get things to automaticity, where you do it without even thinking about it. Like with your children learning to do up shoelaces, right? You get to the point where you do it and you don't even know because you've practiced it so many times that it just becomes what we call automatic within the brain. That's what we need with reading. You see, if you always keep adding in the new, you don't get to get the things that you learn to automaticity. And look, I've always in schools, there's always the parent who wants the harder book sent home. I promise you it is fully researched. The more your children practice, then the more you're able to build on, because as that becomes automatic, to teach the new part becomes easier for me as a teacher. But if it is new every time you open up the book, you never get to the automatic part. You never get to the automaticity. The take-home reader being an easy book is an incredibly important part of this process of becoming a balanced reader. Does that make sense with that book? It's not going to be a hard one, and you can, and I have said to the staff and to Louise, under no circumstances, send home instructional or hard level books for children, because it's for independent reading. That book comes out, they read to you for 10 or 15 minutes. Realistically, if the book is at the correct level, you should only be helping your child with proper nouns. If they're stumbling over more than that 1 or 2 words, then put the book away and get another one the next day, right? It should really only be the proper nouns that they're having a real difficulty with the take-home reading. Okay? So that's the idea, but please do not think that's the level that they're learning to read at. I think that's where the confusion comes in. We're going, they are 2 to 3 levels above in the classroom. As the classroom level goes up, the take-home reader then follows along behind it. So there's absolute method in the madness. So let's have a look then at how complex this learning to read actually is. Right? On the tables in front of you, you'll find 2 cards. Could you just first of all flip over onto the backs of the cards? So just look at the backs of the cards. The first thing that you will notice is down on the bottom band, hidden away down on the bottom, is you've got think your one on dangerous animals is an information report. Yeah, is that it? Yeah. And your one over here is, oh, that's a really good one. That is if you have a look on the back, the text type is on the back. That's an information report as well. And so, so the discussion one, it's got 2 or more points of view. So there's 2 arguments being put forward. In your information report text, it starts with a macro group, then the macro group is broken into micro groups. So it starts with a big thing, but then it's broken into smaller parts. What we didn't realise years ago was in order to be a balanced reader, we have to teach children how to read different texts differently. You have to know what you do inside your head that will make you a good reader when you're reading an information report to being a good reader when you're reading a discussion and so on. For most of us, although most of you are much younger than I am, when I was at school, this wasn't a concern. We had the basal reader, we read our little story. If you read the story well, good reader, away you go, have a nice day. Unfortunately, that will not carry us through in the world today. We need to teach these things to children. So let me show you. Yesterday I had the great pleasure of doing a guided reading group with one of the children, with a group of children here in the school. So this text is a level 19 text, and this one is an explanation text. So it tells us how telescopes were made. This is how our 20 minutes went. First of all, in the guided reading group, all of the children were at the correct level. So in handing this out to the 6 children I was working with, they were all working at level 19. I knew they were going to get 90% of this correct, and it was my job as the teacher to teach 10% of this text. So we're looking at this one on telescopes. Every kid in the group could decode the word telly, could decode the word telescope for me, but not one of them could tell me what telly means. Whenever you see telly, what does it mean? So we had the conversation there that telly means from far, far away. Whenever you see T-E-L-E, it means that it's coming from far, far away. So at this point, we've got someone scoping something from far, far away. We then talked about telephones, the message coming from, and then we were joking about it. I said, and what do you think Teletubbies is all about? And that's tubby little people from far, far away. Because the kid said, first of all, it's because they're on television. No, it's not. It's because they're tubby little people from far, far away. Can you see, reading is more than going telescopes in today's world. We then had a look at the layout of this text, and I got the kids to identify with me that there were label diagrams. They weren't just label diagrams. There was, with this, we had an historical diagram and we had a modern diagram. And since we needed to differentiate between those. We also identified that the text finished with a text box. And I said to them, so now we've got a decision to make as readers. We can read the text box before we start reading the main text, or we can read it at the end of reading the main, but it will still make sense. This piece of information will make sense by itself, can you see? And they decided they wanted to read about the Hubble Space Telescope before they read the main text. And at the end of it, I'm saying, so what does telly mean? How does this explanation work? Where do you read a text box? That's making our children balanced readers. It's not just sitting there saying words on a page. Because the next page they pick up the text, I want them to go, oh, there's an historical diagram. There's a modern one. There's a text box. That's what will teach them to be good readers. And decoding is important, don't get me wrong. The next thing that we did, because this was an explanation, I should have brought down all lesson notes with me. On the piece of paper in front of them, as the children were reading, I told them, because this is an explanation text, as we read it, we can turn this into a timeline. So now we're able to find things and put them on a timeline. Now, if you look at your one on information reports, your dangerous animals ones, you can't put that one on a timeline, because in that text, there is no cause and effect. Nothing makes something else happen. all the way through this text, one thing makes another thing happen. Then that makes another thing happen, and that makes another thing happen. So in front of the children, we've drawn up our timeline, and the text was going like this. Hans Lippershey made the first telescope in the early 1600s. So with the kids, straight away at the first stop, we put 1600. We wrote Hans Lippershey, and we wrote first telescope. Can you see? Then it goes on from there. We used two lenses, make objects look bigger. These lenses were like the ones used in glasses. This telescope made things look 3 times bigger. Next paragraph goes, in 1609. So now we put onto our timeline. Then I'm asking the kids comprehension questions like, how many years was it from when the first telescope was made to when the second one was made? And they could see so clearly in front of me that it was 9 years. And then, in the first one it says that the telescope, the first one, made things look 3 times bigger, but the one made by Galileo Galilei, his made it look 30 times bigger. And I was saying to a group of kids, so is that a big forward movement? Yeah, because they went from, that's what being a good reader is. Being a good reader is not sitting going, as if you made the first telescope, the other going to use 2 minutes to make it, and it's about having full understanding of the text. So, and you can see in front of you when you look at the reading ages on the backs of these texts, the complexity that changes within these texts. There's label diagrams, they change text types, and so on. And we need to teach these things to our children in order to make them balanced readers. So, having said all of that, how can you help your children at home, right? Best way to help your children is to give them something else. I always do that. It's to give them away to somebody else. And particularly in my case. Right, so they get a book out or a text out at home. You know it's at the easy level. Please, 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 as parents, as they're reading to you, check their fluency in phrasing. I'm not saying for your child individually, but when we're looking at the data across the school, the one thing we had to go back and really teach was fluency and phrasing. The kids were decoding really well, but they were not reading with full stops. They were not taking a break when there was a comma. When they were reading complex sentences, they were breaking them in the wrong part. If that is the case, then please, by all means, one of the things we need them to do as parents is to show them what fluent reading is. And what you might do with your child is you read the sentence for them, and let them read it first, and then you say, I want you to read like you talk. I want you to read it. Sorry? Sorry?
Will it teach us?
Yeah. That you have to read like you talk. You then model the sentence to the child and say, now read it like that. Then they read the next sentence, and it might be broken and stilted, and then you say to them again, listen while I do it. And then get them, and then do about 3 sentences, and then get them to go back to the beginning of those 3 sentences, and then have another go through reading it with fluency and phrasing. It's incredibly important. Showing your children when they're working with level text, when they get to compound and complex sentences, get them to look through the sentence to break it up. So let's say they've got a sentence that goes, Mum went to the shops and Dad washed the car. The place where the meaning changes is at the word and. So you get to put their finger under the conjunction. And you see, and you say, this is how you read it. Mum went to the shops and Dad washed the car. Then it's going to make sense. If I had time today to show you a video of some older children in high school who are having real difficulties with comprehension. I was working at a high school to improve comprehension. I took out these 14-year-olds and I was listening to them read. They are reading a science textbook. As they read the science textbook, their decoding is perfect. They say every word perfectly, but their fluency and phrasing is dreadful. They keep breaking the sentences in the wrong place, and by doing that, they completely change the meaning of what they've been reading. So, keep in mind, the schools work really hard, but we've had huge forward movement in that. But when we went back to do these run and read, or listening to children read, we found fluency and phrasing was one of the biggest issues. So listen for that as your children read. Now, just really quickly, and I promise I'll finish up on this because it's tough task, we have to finish this. Yep. 10 minutes, what I want to talk to you about is that's the whole thing. So that's why we do it physically in front of them.
So it's rather you still continue doing
Absolutely, and then you start pulling out more. The great thing, as I wander around this school now, and I'm saying to the kids, with writing, so what, and you've probably heard, if you ask your kids with the work they're doing, so what do you do to write a good explanation text, right? And they'll go, time and adjectives. Whenever you go to read an explanation, what are the words you find in an explanation to let you know that something new is happening? The minute you get to next, the minute you get to after, the minute you get to following, and then we teach them in reading is, even though there's all of these words go next, after, following, what you think is step 1, step 2, step 3. It means exactly, so we're really linking the reading and the writing together, but because becoming a balanced reader is so complex, we have to teach it to them and show them how it works. So initially we do this. What will happen is, after we've done 2 or 3 of these explanations, in fact one of the things that I would do in the classroom is once I'd shown them how to do this mind map in front of them, what would then happen is I would just give them the mind map and get them to go off and do it themselves. Away you go, and you go and get the timeline done for that historical explanation. So you're always moving them towards independence, but at the beginning stages, we say it has to be modelled. I have to be in charge as a teacher, and I've got to show you how you go about doing it. And we just thought if I wanted to learn how to cook, which would never happen, but if I did, asking me to cook a dinner party for 25 people is not going to happen. Getting me to make a bowl of jelly might work, you know, so it's that sort of thing, and I'll show you that to begin with, then I'll step out of it, and then I'm going to make you more independent, is sort of the idea behind it. So very quickly, let's have a talk about this knowledge. The first question that you ask your children about a text should be a literal question. A literal question is a here question. It means that the answer is right here in front of the children. So, a here question must use the vocabulary directly from the text. So I've just picked this up, and the first sentence says, our solar system is made up of the sun and the objects that orbit around it. Here would be the literal question. What is the solar system made up of? Can you see that I've stolen directly from the text? I will not ask, what is the solar system made of? Can you see? It needs to be more of a direct link from the question to the text. So first question, make it a literal question. Next question, make it an inferential question. So, in order to ask an inferential question, there's 3 key strategies you want your children to develop. The first one is reading the visual literacy. So, using any of the illustrations or the pictures, ask them a question that is embedded in the visual literacy. The answer isn't in the words. You've got to search somewhere else in the text to actually get this answer. So ask them a question about the visual literacy. So I might say, from space, what colour is the Earth? Can you see? You've got to read the picture. It's blue and it's white and there's some green. Can you see? And so on. So you ask them a picture, you ask them a question about the visual literacy. So make sure they're linking visual literacy with the text. Right? Next one. Visual literacy. Then, if you can, ask them a question where you change the vocabulary from the text to the question. So, it might be, I'm making this up, I'm not reading it. Here we go. All of the planets in our solar system orbit or revolve around the sun. So now I ask, what goes around the sun? So I'm not going to use the word orbit. So they've got to go, what word means the same as? So you change the vocab between the question and the text. Got the idea? Next question. The next question is, so change vocab from text to question, And your next question, ask the children a question where the answer isn't in one place, it's in a number of different places. So you've got to get pieces of information across the entire text. So they might look at this, and I might ask them a question where they've got to gather information from a number of the different paragraphs. Okay, so that's gathering information from a number of different places in the text. Your last question, and an important one, is the response question. And the response question is where you get the children to bring the text into their world. So this is where I ask the child, would you like to go into space? Why or why not? Which planet would you like to go to visit the most? Can you see? So now I'm bringing the text into their world and their experiences. If I have asked those questions of the children or of a child, I can walk away going, and they've got them correct for me, then I know they've got clarity with the text. Don't ask. Sometimes as parents and as we sort of read, we ask all of these comprehension questions, but they're all neutral. And you see, it's the same strategy over and over and over. So you haven't done more at all. You're better to ask fewer questions better than to keep asking more and more and more questions. So my last point before I take any questions is ask one literal question. So in other words, the answer is right here in front of you. You can even say to children, I'm going to ask you a here question. So there's a direct link between it. Then you move into the inferential, they're your hidden questions. So I'll say this, I'm going to ask you a hidden question. The answer isn't right here in front of you. You're going to have to go searching for this one. And the response questions, they're your head questions. I need the answer of this one out of your head. And keep watching your children. When you ask them a response question and they go back to start reading the text, you have to say to them, the answer to this one isn't in the text, this one's out of your head. And you give them a clue on how to get into it. So, 30 levels of text. Children, we move through the 30 levels of text, not randomly. There will be times, as we are teaching children, where we want to go back down some levels. That's where you might have a child there and they have their summer break. We all know they don't remember everything after the summer break. They might have finished off one year on level 19, but we start at level 16 the next year. We don't just want to keep on pushing them along. We need to go back to build and so on. Because at the end of the day, what we really want for your children is that they will be balanced readers. That is the most important. And being balanced. Sorry? Absolutely, that's not an issue at all. But in giving that to you, it does not go on the fridge, right? There's sometimes a little bit of information gets very, very, but it's to inform you as parents, right? And as I was saying with my little nephew, when he was reading perfectly for me at his level, I did not care what the kid on the next farm was reading. He was at the correct level for him. What I would have been absolutely devastated about is if I went to visit and he tried to read a book to me and he was stumbling over it and he couldn't read and he was feeling that he wasn't a good reader and the teacher had given it to him at that level because the kid on the next farm was at that level. That to me is pedagogical or educational completely unsound. Okay? So it is a nice reference to have. So that's a reading age of, and what you say is, that's the reading age of my child at this point in time, and you want to see that moving forward. Yeah, that's really important. So yeah, absolutely more than welcome to it, but don't put it on the fridge and say, here's Bishop B, Michael. You're a disappointment to all of us. Don't worry, we've all done that. Yes, absolutely. Any other questions just before we finish off? Yes. Yes, good question. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes, Mm-hmm. Yep. That's right. Yep. Yes, yeah. Absolutely. So, what happens is, these are what we call the books that we're using for guided reading. They are not the only books that children should be reading. These are the ones that are getting them to practice specifically what we're teaching. So, children should be reading a wide range of books, they should have library books and so on. But these books have a real purpose to support that guided reading. So that's why they come home. And we do read those aloud. We practice them for this purpose, but they read a whole lot of those. A little while a few years ago, who I had in reading recovery teacher, and doing a technical program, and he was like on level 6, right? He was on level 6. So one day, I'm walking into the school library, and he's walking out of the school library with Harry Potter under his arm. Lots of reading Harry Potter. Now, he was no more going to read Harry Potter than I was going to play on to the moon. But the great thing was, and the wonderful thing was that was his aspirational book. What he was saying to me as a teacher is, one day I'm going to read this. And he said, the last thing I'll ever do is go, give me that book, you're never going to be able to read that. And he said, because he's got his book that's teaching him how to read. So this one, and even if you're at home and mum and dad read it to him, I'm going, fantastic. Because he was off to read Harry Potter. And away he went. And I've had him on back to Wesley. That is a fantastic read. You're going to really enjoy that book. Yes, Mr. Bowman said. And so this is not taking away from any other books the children choose themselves. That's why we don't level library books. When kids go, these ones here are for the actual learning of reading. The others are for enjoyment and interest and so on. And so you keep them within the purpose for which they're intended. I've got to go and do some lessons, unfortunately. Yes, sorry.
Quick question. I'm a bit confused now. Well, my son brings one book home.
Yes.
So is that that's the level?
Just check. I'm not, it should be. The book that he's bringing home from school should be his easy level book that the classroom teacher has given to him and said, read this tonight. Okay? That will be the easy level book, but he should also be having a library book and that he chooses and so on.
Okay.
Yeah. One doesn't